Welcome to the LLG Grapevine podcast. You're listening to Dennis Hall. Levelling up is the big-ticket issue that dominates local government policy. Key party conference speeches from both Boris Johnson and Michael Gove have given greater clarity about their ambitions for local government and what this means for us. So, what's their plan? 1. To empower local leaders and communities. 2. To grow the private sector and raise living standards. 3. To spread opportunity and improve public services, particularly where they are lacking. 4. To restore local pride and community life. But most commentators say that these ambitions are detached from reality and remain impossible to reconcile. The legacy of the austerity years and the COVID pandemic shock have simply overwhelmed local government finance. Councils are expecting a record £3 billion shortfall in the next financial year. On this aspect, we've heard nothing. Litigation lawyers will be absolutely fascinated by the bizarre case of Griffiths and Toohey, a holiday claim which is of much wider significance on the issue of what is termed uncontroverted expert evidence. Here, the claimant's own statements were fully accepted by the court. They produced expert evidence to support their case, and there was no cross-examination of any of this. And yet, the defendants succeeded even though they themselves offered no evidence whatsoever. The defendants instead merely relied upon their final submissions to challenge only the claimant's expert witness evidence. Now, undoubtedly, this is a high-risk litigation strategy, and there can be legitimate speculation as to whether this scenario amounted to a fair trial. The case produced a split decision in the Court of Appeal, and the dissenting judge, Lord Justice Bean, called it litigation by ambush. I don't think he was impressed. According to a recent survey, legal executives face discrimination and unfair treatment by both solicitors and law firms. 81% believe that the rest of the profession looks down on them, and nearly 9 in 10 respondents believe that the legal profession is ignorant about what they can do. Many say that they work in a hostile working environment. The barriers that all SILEX members face are compounded further if you are female or from an ethnic minority or went to a non-selective state school. So, what about local government? Do our managers gauge their own personal impact on others? What kind of working environment do our members experience? And how effective are lawyer managers in their relations with colleagues? The Parliamentary Health and Science Committees published their joint report on the government's COVID response last Tuesday. 3 key points are of particular concern to us, and we knew them before this report was produced. 1. They say that existing social, economic and health inequalities were exacerbated by the pandemic and contributed to unacceptably high death rates amongst people from Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities. 2. The government and the NHS both failed adequately to recognise the significant risks to the social care sector at the beginning of the pandemic. This had devastating and preventable repercussions for people receiving care and also their families, and put staff at risk. 3. The test and trace operation was centralised initially, meaning that assistance from local directors of public health was rebuffed, despite local approaches proving effective in places where they were pursued. It is now clear that the optimal structure for test and trace is one that is locally, not centrally driven. It is clear then where levelling up needs to start. Information law, GDPR and all that sort of thing rarely rings alarm bells as I scan the news horizon each week. But this week it did, when I read the outgoing Information Commissioner's response to the government's proposals to reform data protection law. These reforms could imperil the independence of the Information Commissioner's office, Elizabeth Denham warned last week. Responding to the government's new consultation document, Denham states that the proposals for the government to approve all ICO guidance and to appoint the chief executive do not safeguard its independence. The ICO is currently an independent public body answerable to Parliament, and Denham herself is due to complete her 5-year term of office this month. And on a more critical note, Denham is concerned by the government's intention to remove the right to review decisions arrived at via automated decision-making systems. Now, this is a significant proposal, as many of these decisions will have legal effects upon people's lives and are made without human intervention. Such decision-making is increasingly common in the local government sector and is likely to become highly controversial as more decisions are taken in this fashion. Now, you can get much more on this and all the articles mentioned in this week's podcast by going to Bulletin 39, available now on the LLG website. This week, you've been listening to Dennis Hall, LLG Bulletin Editor.